Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me for another Wow Me Wednesday. As you can see, I have really two guests with me today. This is my little Cooper, my fur baby. And then more importantly, I also have Toan Lamb joining us. Toan, oh my gosh, I can go on and on and on in the introduction as far as who he is, but he is one of my best friends. I call him my brother from another mother. We were reporters together in Midland, Texas, and he helped me through so much back then and has helped me throughout my life. We've kind of like grown up as adults together. So he's like a big brother to me. So thank you, Toan, for being here.
Hey, thank you everybody for joining in. Hi, Jessica. Hey, Cooper. I mean, first and foremost, like I would never compete with Cooper, so he's a more important guest. I'll be back up.
Look at him. Look at him. Just my hand is soaking wet now. So the reason why I asked Toan to join me on this conversation more than just an interview is because I still want to talk about being authentic, how it is to be your authentic self when it comes to being on camera and speaking to an audience. And Toan lives such an authentic life. He's real. And that's why he's helped me so much, like I said, through my adult life. And he pretty much tells it to me like it is. And I think you do that with everybody, right? And as a speaker, he's a motivational speaker, an interior designer, a storyteller. So through all of that, he represents his true self. I thought he would be able to give you guys really both tangible as well as mental, emotional, spiritual guidance and tips to help you be more of an authentic speaker. So how's that as an intro?
Oh my God, that's amazing. You're making me tear up. I was like, okay. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me, Jessica. You know, one of my favorite quotes or isms that I like to say is "You do you, boo." And I think as TV reporters back in the day, Jessica and I worked in Midland, Odessa, Texas together. And when you're on camera as a TV reporter, it's sort of like you're acting, right? It's just like, that's right, Jessica. Like when you would be at the anchor desk and I'm out in the field, I'm like, that's right, Jessica. 5 people were just shot and killed behind me. As you can see, let me set the scene. And so you're kind of programmed in a way, and it could be in your business too. You could be programmed in a way that you're so used to being like an actor or like super perfect. And, while Jessica, when she's on, baby. But at the same time, I see the messy sides that makes her real. Like when she's a mom and Kellen's running around, her son's running around. And then she's like, oh my God, I'm so stressed, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if I can, on camera, I'm like, okay, I need to take a minute. So we're here.
That's
right.
Hard. I mean, I don't know if any of you all feel that way, but it's hard when you are you have your business and like in my business, I help people be more polished, right? Be more polished speakers, be more confident speakers. And so, all my Wow Me Wednesday videos, this is my backdrop. And I'm like, okay, do people want to see this all the time? Or do they want to see the other more, like you said, the messier, more real side of me? So I want to talk about that. And I'm realizing that maybe a mix of both is good. And especially when it comes to social media, I mean, you have the opportunity to show both your professional, more polished side, as well as your messier, more real side, whether you're a mom or a dad or a business owner. Because being a business owner, I mean, you're putting out fires all the time. So showing that real behind the scenes too.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about, Jessica, is balance, right? And I think before this call, you guys, for example, we talked about, okay, how are we going to structure this? Because Jessica knows I'm a little crazy. I'm a lot of woo-woo, a little crazy, or vice versa, whatever you want to call me. But we were talking about, well, how will we best serve the audience, right? And I think the first thing we talked about is, she was like, Toan, I know you're very spiritual, so you can infuse that, but we want pragmatic tips and business. So it depends. Like I do motivational speaking. I also do media training. So sometimes if I'm speaking to a really buttoned up audience, I may share a different set of stories. If I'm talking to mom bloggers, I may share a different set of stories. And while I might not be a mom, I might share other stories that relate or that share that vulnerability, which we'll talk about. But I think what Jessica and I were talking about pre-call is we were thinking about, let's think of this as a game of like if you're a pro ball player, there's a pre-game where you stretch and you do your thing. There's the game, and then there's the debrief or the after game, right? So should we just jump right into the
Sure, let's do, I like the structure. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
pre-game. What do you do to prepare for your presentation or for being on camera?
So I'll tell you what I just did even before this. Whether it's getting ready to do a social media live, whether it's a Zoom call, whether it's being on stage or live on stage, one of the things I love to do prior to it is get my body ready, because your body and mind and spirit are all connected. So if Jessica tells me to shut off, don't be spiritual on this call, that's not really authentically me. It'll still bleed through. I just won't talk about lighting my incense and the namaste that I do. But prior to this, it's stretching. Just get the shakes out. So,
Mhm.
do some shoulder circles, like do
Yeah.
this, and just do 10 deep breaths. If you just do 10 deep breaths and sink in, it totally changes the energy, right? There's mouth exercises you can easily Google or work with Jessica on, just to loosen up your mouth,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So you could stretch your mouth, you could stretch your body, shake it out. You could stretch your mind by just doing the research. And that's another thing I wanted to dive into. It's, what stories do you want to share? There are so many stories that Jessica and I can share, but which ones are the most, which ones will serve your audience the most, essentially, right? And that is also knowing your audience. If your audience is young, you might have a slideshow. The hardest audience I spoke to was elementary school kids. So of
Ah,
course there's a range from kindergarten to sixth grade, right? So we were talking about everyday heroes. And so I would have Disney heroes up. I would have Marvel heroes up to talk about, the different audiences,
right.
levels, the age levels, right? But I might have, a mom that makes superhero capes for sick kids for mommy bloggers. So knowing your audience is really important. Then you can share and be relatable and share that part of you.
Fundamental.
Jessica's a mom. Jessica's an entrepreneur. Jessica is my friend and somebody fun. She's also a hip hop dancer. So, what part of her does she want to share?
Right,
And do
right.
you want to share?
And I think sharing stories is such an effective way of showing your authenticity. And it can be hard because oftentimes I feel like authenticity also equals vulnerability,
Mm,
especially when it comes to storytelling. And I know I've shared some vulnerable moments, some stories from my past in certain presentations, again, when it is suitable for the audience. And I know Toan you
mhm.
have had some really painful moments in your past too that you have shared in motivational talks. And so, how do you identify and how do you find the courage to
Mhm.
share those stories? And when do you know that it's time or that is the right story?
Oh my gosh. So let's start back since the beginning of time, every single culture, whether it be caveman, cave women days, um, to the petroglyphs that you see in the pyramids in Egypt, everybody had one thing in common, all cultures, is storytelling, right? And I think it really connects us. If you and I don't know each other, like y'all may not know me who are watching, but if I share a story with you, you may feel more connected with me. That veil of being a stranger is lifted, and that is the power of storytelling. And I really believe that sharing is caring, but also one of the hardest things, I think, Jessica, maybe you can even do another lesson on this, is following your gut, right? I'm way more comfortable now saying that I am gay, way more comfortable saying that I love to beautify things and into interior design and all these things that I used to be kind of like afraid of, because maybe I was made fun of as a kid in elementary school for having my own style, right? So maybe I wouldn't have shared it at a certain stage of my life, but I think it's really important to think about, what do I really feel comfortable sharing? One of my friends shared with me that she's had multiple miscarriages and she just had her second rainbow baby, right? And when she shared that story, I was like, oh my God, many of my female friends have had miscarriages, And so if you're talking to an audience that is appropriate to share, obviously not young children, but with young mommy bloggers, for example, then that really connects you and the audience. But knowing that the I think the $1 billion question, Jessica, is like, when do you know what to share and when do you know what your gut feels like, right? And I think we all, if we just quiet ourselves, and that's why like the whole meditation thing, like 10 deep breaths before you talk. Oprah used to, before her show, going down the elevator, she would say she would take some deep breaths and pray to God and just say thank you and say a little bit of gratitude. Whatever way, you know, I don't, you know, you don't have to get all woo woo, but whichever way feels most right to you is right for you at that moment, right? And I think that is the hardest part. It's just it's such a it's different stages in your life. Like when we were in Midland, Odessa, Texas, what 15, 20, whatever years ago, like I was not as
Funny.
comfortable in
Yeah.
my own skin. So diving deep into that, maybe take baby steps and share perhaps one story every time you go out to do your speaking gig.
Mhm.
Maybe start there.
Right. Start there and then see how it feels. See what goes on in your body and see how people react
Hmm.
about to that, little dose of vulnerability from you. And
Hmm.
I feel like through our hard, vulnerable, painful times, we've learned lessons. And I think it's a gift for us to be able to share those stories so that we can help not only connect with our audience, but also help share that lesson with others so they can learn it through us in a way.
Hmm. You know, Jessica will attest to you that there's been some nightmare live shots that we've had in Midland, Odessa, Texas, when we were fledgling reporters. And so it's funny. So when I go do speaking gigs in front of thousands or hundreds of people, or I do Zoom calls, they're like, "Oh my God, you're so polished." Well, the polish that you see on Jessica and I and the sparkle comes with many, many challenges and many, many mess ups.
Many mess ups, many
Many mess ups.
behaviors. Yes.
Yeah. And I think we're all human. Like Oprah has stumbled many times. Ellen stumbles all the time. It's endearing now, right? So it's just really finding what makes you you and you do you, boo. Really, it's a term that I, again, will use over and over again. So if you're funny, sneak in some funny stories, right?
Yeah.
If you're serious, be serious, and then when you feel like there needs to be some levity, you can talk about how awkward it is because you're not funny, or it's just you don't want to force yourself to be funny if you're not funny. You don't want to force yourself to be woo woo when you're not woo woo, or spiritual.
Yeah. Yeah.
We all have our own wheelhouse, and that's what makes us super unique. So it's about tapping into that, and if you don't know how to tap into that, talk to your friends about, like, hey, you know what are some words or adjectives that you want to walk away with that I should showcase when I'm
That's a
on
good point.
camera, or work with Jessica. She'll help you find those.
Yeah. Yes, I am pretty good at identifying those.
Yeah.
It helps to have that third party person just to get that outside perspective.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, that's a really good point in time because I don't consider myself a funny person. So if I do mess up, then I'll make fun of myself in
Mhm.
that moment. But what I gravitate towards is those stories of being like thoughtful and I don't know, reflective. And so gravitate towards your strengths,
Mhm.
those stories, or yeah, your sense of humor, or funny, interesting family stories and dynamics, just things that people, again, yeah, gravitate towards and find entertaining,
Yeah.
when it
And you know what? That's the thing where this is the thing where training comes in to help, right? Like, while you may not be funny, Jessica, and I'm like too funny, I'm crazy, funny in a bad way. No, I'm just kidding.
no.
But what you can teach people is, so when you mess up, you are in control of the audience. So if you're like, and like you're awkward, then you make people feel uncomfortable. But what you can train them, and you have trained people to do, I've seen it in your Wow Me Wednesdays, is for you to be like, "Oh, you messed up. Okay, sorry, let's do it over."
Right.
And then you make fun of yourself a little bit in a self-deprecating way that then makes people like, "Oh, that's funny." You know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
because
whatever. Don't
it's
forget about
happened to
it.
me before too, right? We can
Mhm.
all identify with
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
absolutely. So in terms of, like, so that's the pre-game, and I think the game on is really important in terms of, like, when you are delivering. So, like, have your notes or things ready, right? Being real also isn't just about showing those highlighted things. So when you are delivering whenever you're on stage, I feel like what really helps me be me more is from the pre-planning is planning out everything is a story. This conversation is a story. You being on stage is a story. So where's your beginning and then middle and end? In terms of where you want to go, so you're not kind of scattered all over the place, and having that structure in place, the beginning, middle, end, or these are the 3 or 5 points I'm going to talk about, gives you, there's less stress on, oh my God, am I going to remember, am I being perfect? It gives you more room in between the parentheses while you're delivering the beginning, middle, end, to be
Yeah.
more of you and for that to shine through.
I like that. Yeah, having a map, but also allowing those short detours
Yes,
to show
absolutely.
you. Yeah. Now, how about post game? What do
Oh,
you do after? What's a good way?
yeah. So I do a lot of speaking engagements where I also train folks how to tell their story to the media and get in the media. And so one of the things that we do every single time is record people and make them practice. And everybody has a smartphone. You got
Yeah.
one of these?
There's
Just
no excuse
no
nowadays.
excuse. Back
Yeah.
in the day, we didn't have these when we were in college, right? I'm dating ourselves. I know we look younger than we look. We are, but hit record, put the thing down, do your practice, and then the most painful thing is to watch and listen to yourself. I know, but do that. And if if you can afford to hire people like Jessica, it'll be well worth the investment for her to sit and digest it and give you some media training tips on how to just be more authentic. You will also see certain things that you do that you may not see because you're in your body. But when you see yourself on camera, I used to always have this weird thing where I do this when I got nervous on camera, or I might blink too much, or I might like fiddle. I love to fiddle because I'm just
Fiddle,
extra.
I know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know.
Here, yeah.
So yeah,
I do
so
this with all
that's
my
really important.
clients. Yeah.
Practice, practice, practice,
Yeah.
and then get somebody to help you with a trained eye to say, hey, you see when you did this, this is how you can do a hack so that you don't do that anymore.
Right, right. It's so much of it. I do this with my clients all the time, and there's so many things you are not even aware of that you do and that you say, your filler words, and yeah, all the little ticks that you do. So it is really valuable to watch yourself, no
Yeah.
matter how painful it
Yeah.
is. But
And
helpful to have, yeah, an accountability coach kind of guide you along so that you will watch it and to talk it out with you and to know that it is normal.
yeah,
You're not a
absolutely.
freak because you have these idiosyncrasies,
Yeah,
it is totally
absolutely.
normal.
Yeah. And you know what the thing is too, you know, it's about being towing the line to being professional, but also being you is like one of the hardest parts. And one of the questions you asked me, Jessica, was like, how did you get to where you feel comfortable sharing your stories? How do you get as polished as you are, you, not me, as you are on camera, right? But it is the practice.
It's the practice.
Right. And what people don't see when somebody goes to Olympics, the blood, sweat, and tears and the muscle tears,
Yeah.
right? That's what people don't see. And that is the practice.
Yeah. The practice and then gauging how you feel about it and how your audience feels about it. Just like stand-up comedians, sometimes they know that they're putting themselves out there. And when something doesn't land and they don't get the laughs, then they're like, okay, that didn't work out. I'll note that for next time. Right. So it's kind of like noting that and realizing for yourself what works and what doesn't. What is truly authentic, what feels good and authentic to you and represents who you are, and what doesn't. Don't try to be like another influencer, because this influencer is doing all the reels and pointing and dancing and like,
oh my God,
like there's everybody's doing that nowadays. But if that's not you, you don't have to do that. There's another way to connect with your audience, because you want to connect with and attract the people who are attracted to you, the real you, not you pretending to be like a social media influencer.
Yeah.
So
that is really the big answer right there. It's like, you do you, don't try to be somebody else. And you see all these like, I'm like, no, that's so, I can't, like you've seen those TikTok things, and I'm just like, they bug me actually. Like, ew, I cannot do that. But it's you do you do it the way you do best. I mean, like, I see your Wow Me Wednesday sometimes, and I'm like, okay, so I've been in this industry on camera and off camera in the comms industry for over 20 years. And I still say and I still say ahs, and I do like my little thing, but that's just me. I do less and less ahs because I've watched your Wow Me Wednesdays and I'm more aware, but sometimes I'm like, like in my own real life, like when I'm on stage, I'll be like, oh dang, like, and that's just me. And I've been told not to use my hands too much, but I use my hands because this is me. This is how I talk. I mean, obviously I'm not going to be like this the whole time, but I'm going to tell you something, or the thread of everything I do, like, from TV reporting to PBS show host to university instructor to academy, like whatever, motivational speaker,
Designer.
the
Yeah.
string of everything that goes through everything that I do is storytelling. Then it adds character and it adds flair. So I'm not saying like, oh my God, like this is not, you just didn't pay me to do this, but it's not like I'm saying like, oh my God, you need, like this is like an ad for you, like you have to hire somebody. But to have the training and to treat yourself to that and invest in that training, even if it's a little bit of training, will really go a long way. And I think you do such a good job of also being who you naturally are. You're very vulnerable in terms of sharing, like, I'm not that funny. You've told me that before. I mean, like, you're way more buttoned up than I am, but that's just you. That's what makes you great. That's in your wheelhouse. With me, I could be a little bit more airy fairy because I'm do a lot of design work, and I do more long format storytelling. So it's all about like feeling what's good
Balance each
here.
other out. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you might be one way and then you could attract a different audience, different kind of friends, a different kind of client.
Yep.
So, but as long as you are doing you as
Yes, and this is the thing. There's only one you. Remember that. Even twins even twins have different fingerprints. Like there is only one you. And
Yeah,
so being
love
you
that.
is the hardest thing to be. So tapping into that, it's hard because when you're younger, you want to be like everybody. I used to hate my name, like Toan, like, oh, why can't I just be a Tom? Because people make fun of my name all the time. But then now it's like kind of cool to have a different name here in America because it's just different and it's unique. But I think, yeah, just feeling what feels good to you. If it doesn't feel good to do those TikTok videos that do this, or I know, or like to do this, like those things actually, with all the pointing, it's way too much for me. And I'm like, huh? So it's whatever works and feels good for you. And like Jessica says, test it out with your audience. Ask people, hey, what'd you think about that? Have little Instagram polls.
Right.
What was really interesting, Jessica, is we've been in the pandemic for that you've asked me to do this because we've been in the pandemic for like 2.5 whatever years. I've lost track of time. And I recently was hired to do the speaking engagement with for the Bay Area Council, and it's like people that have won Nobel Peace Prize. They're honoring heroes in the community, like the president of a bank, and tech folks that came, like tech giants, icons, and they were honoring them at this event, and they asked me to come speak. And I asked the person that came to ask me to speak, I was like, do you want me to add style and flair, or do you want me to just be super businessy? Because I could be super buttoned up and deliver everything you have on the script. And he was like, no, be yourself, be fun. And that's what we're looking for. But it's towing the line between having fun and telling jokes and things that I would tell like at Jessica's dinner party versus telling these different jokes that I had pre-planned on stage. So I was still able to wear my 3/4 length, shiny Marnie pants, with my spiky loafers, my big rings, and they loved that. But again, the audience was mainly conservative people, but they were trying to do something different. Now people, like with the pandemic, they wanted, people have been kind of like holed up and they wanted that night to be more fun and loose. So so knowing who like is hiring you to speak or whatnot is really important, and what they want the mood to be like. And even pre-call, right? Jessica and I were talking about the mood of this call. What is it going to be like? Because prior to this, we were like laughing. She's like, I'm putting on my makeup. Right? I'm doing my hair. Yeah.
As we were talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So setting the mood was important. And she was like, I want it to be like, we're having a conversation. So we're not acting, because this is not about acting. This is about authenticity. Right. And it's really important to think about these things, because your intention is really important. Like going back to the pregame, going back full circle, is what is your intention? Is your intention to go and serve the audience and make it light and fun? Or do you want it to be super serious and then hit your point at the end about global warming? Like, what is it? Like, how will you tell that story?
What is the main, what do you want the audience to walk away with? How do you want them to feel? And maybe what are the takeaways as well? So Toan, this has been invaluable, and it just makes me miss you so much.
Oh, me too. You owe me a visit.
Talk like this. We could go on and on forever. But for all of you who have fallen in love with Toan like this, because he is so real and fun with flair, how can we follow you? Where can we find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Toan Lam TV, TOANLAM TV, and on my website, styleyourspirit.com. Thanks for watching.
All right. Thank you all for watching, and leave us some comments. Shoot me a DM if you guys have more questions and want to keep this conversation going. I love talking about this. And again, everyone's authenticity is a different definition. So you and I, me and Toan, you and I could have a totally different conversation about authenticity. So let's open up that door. So for now, I will wrap up and say I love you all and see you next time. Bye, everyone. Bye, Toan.
Bye, everyone.